Hey guys, Jacqueline here, and welcome to part 18 of how to make a 2D RPG in Unity. In this video, we're going to be creating the functionality for requiring our player to be holding the hoe in their toolbar in order to interact with the ground. So to get started, we're going to have to open up a couple of different scripts. We're going to be working in 4 particular scripts. We're going to be working in the player, so you can go to your scripts folder and double click on the player script to open it up. And we're going to be working in this one because this is where a lot of our interaction logic is in terms of pressing the button and talking to our tile manager. Now, we're going to also need to open up our tile manager because this is where the other half of our logic lives for interacting. Then we'll also need to open up our toolbar UI script. And we're going to need this one because it has a reference to a selected slot. And we're going to need that in order to tell which thing we're holding in our toolbar. And then also we're going to open up our inventory script because we're going to need to make a small change to also include a selected slot in here for our toolbar. All right, so with those open, we're going to go ahead and get started. So first, I think we need to just kind of rearrange what's happening in the player script. This is where we're, initiating the interaction, but then we're giving a lot of the responsibility to the tile manager on like, is this interactable? And if so, then interact with it. But what I think we need to do is kind of take the responsibility of is interactable away from the tile manager for right now, just to get this working. And then we can come back and refactor it to make it work better later. But right now I just want it to work. So we're going to do that. The first thing I think we should do is actually grab a reference to our tile manager from the game manager. That way we can access it here without having to like always say game manager.instance. So I'm just going to do a private variable actually. That way we don't have to share that with anyone. And then I'm going to add a start function so we can get that here. So we'll say tile manager equals get, or not get component. Visual Studio wants me to get component, but that's not what we need to do. We need to do game manager dot instance dot tile manager. So just grab that so it's for easy access. And then inside of our update function where we're getting our stuff, we should make sure that the tile manager is set before we do anything else. So we will add an if statement. And we'll say if tile manager does not equal null, because if it is null, then we won't be able to do any of this stuff. And then I'm just going to go ahead and move this up into this area. So I just highlighted it and I hold down my Alt key, and if you press up, it will just move it up. Or you could just cut and paste, but that's how I move that there. All right, so now that we have is if our tile manager is not null, then we will need to get the tile that we are trying to look at to see if it's interactable, since we're going to take out this is interactable. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this little bit here for now since we don't need it. And let's go ahead and create a string, and we'll call it tile name, since part of how we interact in our tile manager is we check to see like what the name of the tile is. So we're just going to give that responsibility to the player for now. So tile name equals, and then we're going to create a function within our tile manager that will give us the tile name at the position we're at. So I'm just going to write it out here, and then after we write it, we're going to go and put it into the other script. So we'll just say tile manager dot get tile name, and then we'll pass the position into there because in order to get the tile, we need the position. All right, cool. So that's that. Let's head over to our tile manager and just create this function now. So to start out, we're going to just go to the bottom of the script and create a new function called get tile name. So public string get tile name. We'll give it a vector3 int for the position. And then inside of here, we will check to see if our interactable map is not nothing, because it is required to be not nothing in order for us to access anything in it. Since we're going to be getting our tile from here, we need to make sure that this isn't going to throw a no reference exception on us. Then we'll get the tile that we're looking for. So we could say tile base equal, or name it tile, and then we'll just do interactable map dot get tile, and then pass the position in there. Okay, and then if we have a tile, then we can do something. So let's make sure that our tile is not null, because there is a possibility it could be. And then we can just return the tile's name. So return tile.name. Okay, and then if none of this is true, like if we don't have a tile or the interactable map is not or is null, then we can just return an empty string because there would be no name. Cool, so that is that function. And then let's just scroll up and get rid of our is interactable function. We don't actually need this anymore since we're going to be moving this logic kind of into the player. So go ahead and delete that and save the script, and then head back to the player script, and we will finish setting up our logic in our update function. All right, so in the update function, after we get the tile name, we then need to make sure that we got a name that isn't like a string that's empty or null. So we'll just do an if statement, say if not string dot is null or white space, which is just a function built into string that checks if the string is null or white space, and if it is, it returns true. But we want to make sure it's not null and it's not empty, like an empty string. So we'll just say not string is null or white space, and then we'll pass the tile name into there. Just because we want to make sure that this has some sort of value, has characters. If it has nothing, then we didn't get a tile name, so we don't want to do anything. All right, so if we did get something back that's not an empty string, then we'll go ahead and do our check for if we can interact with this. So in our tile manager, we were checking the name of the tile to make sure it's the correct tile for this type of interaction. So we'll do that here. So we'll say if tile name equals, and then we'll say the name of the tile, which in our case is interactable. And just a heads up here, I might actually have, this might be uppercase in yours, like starting with a uppercase I in your project if you were following along with me before. I did have to redo the project in order to get back to doing my videos. So if this is slightly different, just do it the way that you were doing it before. Do not copy what I'm doing now if it's not the same. If you would like it to be the same, you can go and rename your tile to have in lowercase I, but if it's uppercase, just make sure you add an uppercase here. So that way it will work for you. Otherwise it won't work if you do it my way and it's not that way in your project. All right, so after we get the interactable, we also need to check if we're holding the hoe, because that's part of this interaction. Like, can we hoe the ground without a hoe? No, we can't. So we need to have it in our toolbars, and it needs to be selected. And that's kind of where the toolbar UI comes into play. So I'm actually going to just finish out this if statement here. We'll get some brackets so we don't have any errors. And I'm going to save the player script, and we'll head over to the toolbar UI script. Because this is where our selected slot lives. We have this here, and when we select something on the toolbar, it puts a value in here. And we need to get this value also in the inventory. So we need to be able to tell the inventory, like, hey, this slot is selected as well. And that's only really going to be on the toolbar that it works that way, where we're setting that selected slot. But we still need it so we can access it to make sure that we are holding the correct item. The slot UI actually doesn't have any knowledge about the item that we're holding, so that's why we need to add it to our inventory. Right, so let's go ahead and go over to our inventory and set that up. So in our inventory, just underneath the slot class, and on mine, I have it collapsed. It will look probably expanded to you, but I just clicked this little minus sign to collapse it to kind of clean up my my code here, so it's just a little easier to navigate. So if this, if you don't want to see this whole class here for the slot, you just go ahead and click that my assign to collapse it. And that's all that I had done there. All right, so let's add our selected slot. So let's just say public slot, and we're making it public because we will need to access it from outside of the inventory. So that's why we're making it public for now. And then we'll just say selected slot. And then if you didn't want to make this public, you could go ahead and create a function or a property that would return this value for you if you want to make it private. But that's something that I will probably come back and do in a refactor later. So don't worry about that. I'm just going to make it public for now. All right, so we added our selected slot, and we need a way to be able to set this. So I'm going to go ahead and just go to the bottom of my inventory class. After move slot function, I'm just going to create a new function, so public void, and I'm going to call it select slot. And then we need to know which slot we're selecting, so I'm just going to pass in the index there, since we have that in our inventory UI script. All right, and then this is super simple. We just need to set the selected slot. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that our slots list is not nothing, because it's dependent on this having slots. And then also I'm going to make sure that the slots.count is greater than 0, because we need to have slots in our list in order for this to work. All right, and then once we've checked this, so if slots is not nothing and slots the count is greater than 0, we'll go ahead and just select the slot. So we'll say selected slot equals slot.index. And Visual Studio kind of recommended that to me, so I hit tab in order to complete that. So here's selected slots equals slots.index. All right, so that's everything we need to do in our inventory. We can go ahead and hit save, and then head back to our toolbar UI to call that function. All right, so we have two functions in here for select slot. So the first one is where we could pass in, you know what, I just realized you might not have two select slot functions. I did this because I did not want to type in the number into the click event. So let me just run through this really quick. So what I did here is I added another selected slot function that takes in a slot UI. And I did this so I could, here, I'll go back to Unity and show you. So I did that because I really didn't want to have to set up the index on the click event on the toolbar. Because I was deleting stuff and then having to type them back in one by one again and again and again. And it was quite annoying. So what I did was I added that select slot function that takes in a slot, and then I just dragged the slot in there, and then I duplicated all these again, and then updated my toolbar UI, my inventory, to have all the slots on there. So if you don't want to type them in there, I definitely recommend just pausing the video and adding in this code here. So what I did was I created a second select slot function that takes in a slot UI. And then with that, I just called the original function with the slot ID because it's right in the slot UI script already. So that way you don't have to type in the numbers over and over. So if you want to update that, this is a great time to do it. So just pause the video and update it and then come back when you're done. All right. So inside of our original select slot function here, where we're taking an index, we're making sure we have slots, making sure that we're setting the highlight. But after we set the highlight on the current selected slot, we should call the select slot function on our toolbar. So from here, we can just say game manager.instance.player inventory manager.toolbar.selectSlot, and we can pass in our slot index. We just say index. And that's pretty much it. And the reason that we're going to get this through the game manager is because this toolbar UI does not have a reference to it, but we do have reference to it in our game manager. So we could just access it that way. And like I said earlier, we might want to come back and refactor this another time to keep the code a little bit more separate and less entangled. But right now, my goal is to make it work, not necessarily to make it good the first time. So I am fully planning on coming back to refactor this in another video later. But this will work for now, just to get it working. All right, so now that we have our toolbar set up, and our inventory has a selected slot, we're selecting the slot when we select a slot. This should, I think, work. So let's go ahead. Oh, no, we gotta go back to the player script and we gotta finish setting it up. Yeah, okay. So back in the player script, in our update function where we're checking the tile name, we need to also check our selected slot on our toolbar. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and just say and then we can access that toolbar through our inventory manager, which we have on our player, so you can see that up here. So let's say inventory manager dot toolbar dot selected slot, and then we can just say item name because we're going to look for a particular item, and then we'll say hoe since we named that hoe in our previous video, and then we can add our logic for selecting the slot or interacting with the slot. No, not slot. Interacting with the ground. There's too many slots. All right, so then inside of this if statement, we can access the set interacted with our through our tile manager, which we have set with our from our game manager. So we'll just say tile manager dot set interacted, and then we'll pass in our position. All right, and then there's just one little teensy update that I want to make on our tile manager. So if you head to tile manager script, you'll see this tile here. This is interacted tile. I want to rename this because this is really just our plowed tile, and we're going to be creating other ways that we can interact with the world. This is not going to be the only way, so this is not a great name for it. So I'm just going to go ahead and just double click on it, and then you can either do Control RR to rename it, or you can right click and then do rename. And you can see that it says Control RR here. I think you went over it in the last video too, but you just go ahead and click that, and then change the name from interacted tile to maybe plowed tile or something more descriptive than interacted tile. All right, and then you'll see that it updated all the references. So it's changed here and it's changed here. And I think those are the only two references. All right, with that all done, we can just double check we got everything. So we've got this. I'm going to add maybe like a debug log in here. Just so it's a little bit more, it should be fine. All right, we'll go ahead and just go back to Unity and we will just try it out. I don't think we actually have to update anything in our stuff. I just want to make sure everything has, okay, yeah, it's cool. I'm glad I checked this. On our game manager, our tile manager, our plowed tile is now going to be set to nothing because we renamed the variable in the script. So we just need to go ahead and just add that tile back in there. So you can go to your tiles inside of your sprites folder. There's tile palettes, and grab that and drag it in there. Or you can just press this little button here and it should be one of the first ones at the top. I can click that. And then everything I think should be set up. So we can go ahead and click play, make sure we didn't forget anything. So I'm going to go ahead. I picked up the tool. It is in my inventory, but it's not in my toolbar. I'm going to go ahead and press space to like try to interact with the floor, and nothing's happening. So that's good. So let's go ahead and just toss this in our toolbar, and then we'll select the slot and we'll see if we can interact. Oh, nice, we can. Cool. So it's working. Now it is required for you to have a hoe in order to plow the tiles on the floor. Nice. All right, so great work, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next time. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. And then if you are anxious to find the upcoming next video that comes out, make sure you hit that notification bell so you'll be notified. I am also on Patreon, so please support me if you can. It would be a great help. It would help me get back to YouTube, hopefully full-time. That is my goal. Anything that you guys can do to help me do that would be much appreciated. And if you haven't joined our Discord already, please make sure to do so. The link will be in the description below. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.